Welcome to One Dime Radio. I am here with FD Signifier, a video essayist who touches on cultural and political topics. And I'm having him here today because we're both hip hop heads. And he has a lot of really great videos about hip hop. This will be a very unusual episode for One Dime Radio listeners. But, the ones who really watch my videos, they know I'm a hip hop head and they know I've been dying to talk about this topic. But there's not many people I know who would be wanting to talk about this topic on a platform. And
I've been foaming at the mouth about it.
Kendrick Lamar versus Drake, the real conflict. Forget Biden versus Trump. This is way more entertaining
and less depressing, mostly.
Yeah, well, welcome on the show, FD.
Yes. It's cool to talk to you. Quietly, you're one of my biggest influences. People probably wouldn't even know that.
Really?
Yeah, when I started making content and when I made the overt decision to become more political, it's hard to explain. So I'm like a old head when it comes to YouTube video essays. I've been watching forever. If you've watched me, I've talked about like the red letter media, angry video game nerd era, being a big fan of Lindsay Ellis, etc. And then of course, I think we all probably here in some form or fashion because of ContraPoints. But when I decided I was going to be more overtly political in my content after the Bo Burnham video blew up, you were one of the first people that somehow popped up on my radar as I was like, okay, I want to be more educated on, these philosophies and these politics. I don't just want to talk on my ass. I want to like make it feel informed. And I wanted to feel, it's hard to explain. I don't want to just be another sassy bread tuber. You know what I mean? Like, snarky bread tube snark. I like it. I enjoy my fair share of bread tube snark. I have a lot of phase, but I didn't want to do that. And so I found you through kind of like seeing who else is talking about these things and in what way. And like I think I gave you a shout out during my Drake video a couple of years back. And I probably referred to that video multiple times because it's it was eye-opening video because it introduced me to the critical theory guys, introduced me to that, which, led to more education, yada, yada, yada. So, and I've constantly came back to your channel, not every video, but like things like trying to understand what happened with Mao. Like that was a really good video for me because like, I didn't know all these things. You know what I'm saying? My education is Africana studies, sociology, gender. I did not have a really strong political education from like leftist theory until essentially a little bit before, grad school, which started in 2013, but like grad school and then like political education aren't the same thing. Like grad school, you're trying to get grades and pass classes versus political education. I'm developing new understandings of the world. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure I showed a little love.
Was the culture industry the first video you found?
That was the first video I found. Yeah.
Interesting.
And so like, and it was funny because I could tell you were, I guess in coordinates with this piece, you were like, hey, can you guys just listen to me not talk about like Marx and theory for like one video?
Yeah.
Just for one video, can you just please be normal so I can talk about something cool?
Yeah, for real. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, how can I reverse that? I'm just only going to talk about pop culture stuff, but I'm going to sneak in these little tidbits and refer to these more educated creators for those interested in looking for more information. So.
Yeah, you definitely have like a way bigger reach with like people who are not necessarily initiated into this stuff. But what made me want to make that video is because I've always been a consumer of hip hop media. Right. So I'd always listen to dead end hip hop channels like that. So that was my way of trying to reach a kind of hip hop audience who might not otherwise be into that kind of stuff. Cause I figure like hip hop's a pretty political genre. Like, not all, but yeah. Some of my favorites are very like educated people like Lupe Fiasco.
Right.
One of my favorites,
Right. Public Enemy, a lot. Yeah. Hip hop has a genuine place in Black political history. A very relevant one, which is kind of where my conflict with Drake begins, because Drake has been he is not responsible for this, but he's been like emblematic of the erasure of hip hop's political origins and its political utility, if that makes sense, for Black people. And like, I mean, where do you even want to begin with Drake?
Well, I guess like I think did it very excellently in your Drake and the Death of Hip Hop video, because you first outlined like what are unfair criticisms of Drake and what are fair criticisms.
Right.
Because there's a lot of unfair things because people will call him whack.
Yeah.
Whereas you gave him his props. Like the guy is extremely talented.
Yeah.
And even when he wants, he can rap. I really believe he when he wants, he can rap, but his content is vapid.
Yeah. Drake was a lyrical miracle guy. You know, that's his origins. He can't, that's what makes it so funny now, his persona and the fandom around him. Not all the fandom, some of the fandom are still rap nerds of some ilk, but most of his fans. So I've another video, shameless plug, coming out, God willing, next week. That kind of is this whole beef in a nutshell. So it really is like a redoing of the first video, but with much, much more. And I talk about the fact that, and I got this from, shout out to Trixie the Golden Witch, who is a anime. I found her through anime, and then she kind of just started she went off the deep end a little bit, but like has always had really interesting media takes. And she said when this was happening that Drake being number one is his biggest appeal to his audience. Because he is Drake, because he is the top person, there's always a type of person that just wants to be a fan of whoever's winning, you know? And that's a lot of people, a lot of, normies. And then because he makes really vapid, simple, easy to listen to music that's unchallenging, it kind of just reinforces hip hop and musical landscape that makes it easy for him to dominate. But if you go to Drake's origins, you listen to his early mixtapes and you listen to who his influences are, it's lyrical miracle stuff.
Like Fonte.
Yeah, Fonte. He was a big fan of Fonte from a little brother. He was a big fan of Joe Budden, and you listen to his old raps and he sounds like, he sounds like a young Eminem. Like he sounds like every white lyrical miracle rapper from that era. You know what I'm saying? And so now he sounds like nothing, almost like he sounds like he doesn't exist now.
He's a chameleon.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's probably his biggest talent is as an actor. So, had he just went the Will Smith, LL Cool J route, he may just be a megastar, actor. I could see Drake playing a cop, you know what I mean? But he decided he really wanted this rap thing to work. And that kind of brings us to like what I think is his biggest driving force, which is acceptance. And that combination of being uber talented, we'll say very unscrupulous or unprincipled, and being extremely talented at acting and playing characters and a chameleon has led to him almost being this tragic figure, I would argue, in hip hop, where he's the most dominant force in a genre he's destroyed. himself, that he has himself destroyed and made less of the thing that he wanted to be a part of 10, 15 years ago,
Do you think, like, I thought that for a while because, Drake is one of those figures that I think makes great music, but he's like pop. Yeah. And sometimes he makes good rap. Sometimes he makes good rap, but for the most part, pop. But when I've seen the way rap has gone in the past 5-10 years, or really 5 years, I think it's accelerated. Drake looks like really good compared to a lot of these new cats. Like you see, and the word mumble rap doesn't really describe it because it doesn't like there's some of these mumble rappers.
Three letter rappers is what I've been calling them.
3-letter rappers. Like
NLE Choppa, NBA Youngboy, YNW Melly, like half of them have 3 letters in front of their names.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad. That's why I call it the death of hip hop, So yeah, compared to insert young guy here, Drake is, freaking, Razzcast, right? Like he's a true purist lyricist. But those guys, to me, those guys exist because of Drake to an extent. Because of Kanye, I would argue Kanye's patient zero.
Yeah, you've said that too, and
Yeah,
recently. Yeah.
Kanye's
What
patient
about Lil
zero.
Wayne? I think Lil Wayne is like the most influential when it comes to these new cats.
So Wayne is influential in terms of like aesthetics and like vibes, but Kanye and Drake represent the erosion of hip hop purist principles. Let me backtrack a little bit. Let's backtrack a little bit. If you're watching the video out, you'll get this is like some subtext or footnotes of it. Basically, hip hop exists and it exists as a radical art like movement, basically. Initially, it's born literally out of the streets, and it's born between a combination of like club culture, it's a little queer with disco, and it's very counterculture, party culture, and then from street culture, house parties, street DJs, etc. That's what kind of bursts hip hop. But in its earlier days, it's still mostly disco. Like from the early 70s to the early 80s, for a 10-year period, it's still mostly disco. And it's not until you get the emergence of the first rap stars, Rakim, LL Cool J, Run DMC, etc., that it becomes the hip hop that we kind of like imagine existing today, or existing for a period of time up until maybe 2019. But as soon as those stars emerge, it also becomes culture industry. It becomes industry, period. It becomes commodity. It gets, bought up by the capitalists, bought up by corporations. Everybody gets brand deals. My Adidas, like that is the moment where it stops being radical, because Adidas says, holy shit, we can make a lot of money off this. This is a youth culture movement that is already in line. And so Sprite commercials, you know what I'm saying? It's once upon a time, all that stuff. So it's I think a misnomer, and this is something I try to correct in the video, to make it seem like the culture is back because Drake lost, right? If you want to be honest, it's all captured already. Even Kendrick, you know what I'm saying? All of that, if you are a mainstream rapper making, like Kendrick edits, when he played the Super Bowl, he did not say we hate Popo. You know what I mean? Like he didn't do it on Amazon either. On the pop out, and we gonna be all right. He edited out we hate Popo from his song. So like that speaks to, and this is no shade to Kendrick, but that just speaks to who truly runs the music culture and industry within hip hop. It's not the people that create the music and the culture, it's the people that write the checks. And that's been the case well before Drake. It's just that up until Kanye, hip hop, and you remember this in the first video, had gatekeepers. And the gatekeepers, as flawed as they were, had certain standards and had certain expectations and certain codes about what hip hop was allowed to be. And those things were imperfect because hip hop was allowed to be very misogynistic and very materialistic, and predators were allowed to run the gamut through hip hop. So it wasn't like they had these perfect standards, but it did also say we are going to keep alive some of these radical traditions. We're going to have Public Enemy. We're going to pull in Rage Against the Machine. You know what I'm saying? Like all this counterculture stuff is going to be kept alive. And even if it's captured, it's still there. There's something to that. And then Kanye basically is the new model. And so when Kanye broke free from the gatekeeper, from the gatekeeper's like approval system, and said, I am what hip hop is now. And I bring up this moment in the video when Kanye and 50 Cent had their contest. Do you remember this?
Kanye, yes. When they had the graduation versus Curtis.
Yes.
Like who's going to sell more, and Kanye won.
Yeah. And nobody expected Kanye to win. And he blew him out the water by like 300,000 albums.
Yeah, because 50 was huge. Like
50 was huge
back then.
Right. And Kanye blew him out the water. That was the symbolic end of the power of the gatekeeping like era of hip hop. And you see notable like public gatekeepers like Charlemagne the God, who was a OG Drake hater. He'll deny it now. He'll act like he wasn't. He still does show it a little bit. But like early on, especially reckless Charlemagne the God, who was like, lucky he's managed to like be so like kind of like stay under the radar and like fight all his demons enough. But like early reckless Charlemagne the God hated Drake, always called him soft, always called him whack, etc. He suddenly was like, oh, Drake is okay.
It was
Everything's
after back to back, I think.
after back to back. Yeah.
When he like beat Meek Mill, he earned a lot of respect with those dudes.
Right, right. Just the point I'm getting to is that so much of the old guard of hip hop media and culture producers stopped, either they stopped hating on Drake or they stopped being hurt or they stopped being taken seriously. One of the, definitely by the time he beats Meek Mill, but also in like between that time period between Kanye beating Curtis and Drake beating Meek Mill, we have that transition. And so by the time we get to Drake beating Meek Mill, all of the like major, conscious hip hop and all these like major elements to what the public popular facing discourse of hip hop has been completely, eradicated and diminished. And the best you got is dudes yelling on Vlad TV, who's also a culture vulture. You know what I'm saying? And so I guess I say all that to say Drake and Kanye's influence is to say, we're going to make hip hop greatly devoid of any type of significant Black ethos. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to be very informed by any Black struggle in our music. Kanye kind of pantomimes and acts like he's doing it. But if you really,
at the beginning,
definitely. But like by the time, right after, once we get to 808s and Heartbreak, it's pretty much a wrap after that. 808s and Heartbreak is when he's like, all right, fuck y'all. What's the language here? After 808s and Heartbreak, he's like, fuck you guys. I'm white now. Is my goal. That is my goal, is to be white. And he said that out loud.
Or even graduation, because the whole point of the title was he's like graduating from hip hop.
Right.
Moving on.
Hip hop is too small. He talks about hip hop the same way Post Malone does, So, and I don't know what the perfect alignment between that and modern rap is, but I just think the soul of hip hop has always been Black struggle. And without Black struggle being effectively engaged in the music, combined with the commercial overseers that have been there the whole time, we have, I don't know, DaBaby. You know what I'm saying? We have guys like Lil Baby, who people thought was going to be something, but he doesn't have the passion for it. He's not very good. A lot of babies, right? It's probably like at least 3 more.
Yeah, I guess another testament to your point is, I think, the importance of gatekeeping. And now people look at that and that sounds elitist to a lot of people. It's like, why can't you just have the masses decide? And I think there is something, part of what's bad about the commodification of art is that it has to appeal to the lowest common denominator. And that means the broader majority, and the broader majority might not have any standard of reference for like what good and bad music in that genre is, because so like good and bad music, I don't think we have like a set. It's not, I never quite bought the idea that it's totally relative. Like it's subjective, and taste is definitely relative. Right. But of course, someone you're going to trust the opinion of someone who's listened to 1,000 hip hop albums versus someone who's listened to 20. Right. They have more frame of reference. Right. And that's where I see it. It is important. Like I do think critics are good. Like all the good artists, like they listen to critics. Like even Drake, he dropped that album For All the Dogs, which was, the first album wasn't very good at all. Right. But then after
his second part is like, oh, I remember this Drake. This is pretty good.
Yeah, the second part was pretty good, and he only made that because of all the backlash, because he actually cared about what the critics thought. But like back when, I guess you could say, hip hop was more gatekept, to be the best in the game, you had to be at least, if not the best, you had to be one of the best at like rapping, flow, all of that. It wasn't just hits, because you mentioned Vanilla Ice. He had like the highest selling hip hop song at one point, but nobody considered Vanilla Ice the dopest. People considered Big the dopest, Biggie Smalls, because he was also like a phenomenal rapper.
Right. And also the key, and also like Biggie doesn't get enough credit. It's also that the gatekeepers, let me backtrack a little bit. So let's talk about like the concept of gatekeeping within hip hop being slightly unique, because what we're really gatekeeping is this uniquely Black resource. So gatekeeping, while that's the term I use, a better term would be protecting, because historically Black people know that if we have like the thing we always seem to have is art, in essence, soul, right? And so that was gospel, and then jazz, and then the blues, and then rock and roll, and then hip hop. And at every interval, what happened? You know what I'm saying? Like, so like it's a different, for anybody that like hears gatekeep and feels like, well, that sounds elitist, that sounds, anti-leftist or whatever, you want to think about. I get your argument, but it doesn't work within the context we're talking about. We're talking about a captured, really neo-colonial state that we're in, where we've created this thing out of the sheer like blood, sweat, and tears of our existence. And then a colonial, a controlling power says, we like that, give it here. So we've developed these protective habits over the generations to try to at least get some value out of this thing that we create. So again, imperfect in its existence, but that's why it existed. And so I guess an example of interest convergence, when you have the gatekeepers, you have and then you have the gatekeepers, you have the corporations, and you have these extremely talented artists, you end up with the Fugees, you end up with Ready to Die, because people are actually making art still at that time, because you had to make something that could break through to a hip hop audience and be something to tour, not just tour and make videos for, but raise the level of your status within the hip hop culture and community, because that's how you made money. Now you make money from making content. Most rappers are now content creators. That's what's really missing, is that, Lil Pump made a meme rap song 5-6 years ago. I don't know how rich it made him, but it made him a household name for 18 months. And he didn't have any real talent. He didn't have any real passion for the art, but he made his coins. And so people saw that. We have the mumble rap era, the SoundCloud era. And in the aftermath of this, and this is not to say that we don't have good music coming out. Look at a guy like 21 Savage. He's one of the best rappers out right now through any context, in my opinion. But he started out very much like a mumble rapper. But that's because he had an artist's soul still in him somewhere.
He was the one I did not expect to like be as good as he is, because he has that album Drake, and he's actually, I think, more entertaining than Drake is on the album.
He is. But you have to go to the 2 albums before, maybe 1 or 2 albums, 2 albums before that, in the album he recently released. 21 Savage is just genuinely in the same like tradition as Goody Mob and other Southern hip hop like acts. He's just a great Southern rapper. But he has the veneer or the stench of a mumble rapper, because he came out kind of sounding like a mumble rapper during that era.
Yeah, the aesthetic of a mumble rapper.
Yeah.
He's not really in spirit. I mean, it's like Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne is so aesthetically a mumble rapper, and the thing about it,
because he created that aesthetic.
Yeah, I think he would be one of the goat rappers too if he didn't make so much bad music, because he has so much, like, for every great Lil Wayne song, he has like 5 terrible songs.
Yeah, he's still a goat, but you're right. Like he would in that way, you're right in terms of like his influence, because I think it was the Carter was like, because Lil Wayne is old. People don't realize he's been rapping since he's 11. His first album came out in probably 1995. He was like 13 years old. And so he was around for a while. And then suddenly in like 2001, 2002, he drops the Carter. He goes from being like, just another Southern rapper from No Limit imprint to the best rapper alive. But then he kind of like squeezed all the juice he could out of that. He beat that horse to death. So Wayne, if you track the like the lineage of like the top rapper around title, you go back to like Pac and Biggie, and then Jay-Z, and then Kanye slash Lil Wayne, and then just Lil Wayne, and then Lil Wayne begets Drake. Around Jay-Z, you should watch a video from Lil Bill. He just released that kind of talks about Drake's lineage. Jay-Z was probably one of the first rappers to just make content to say, I'm just going to drop an album every year, regardless of the quality.
I think Jay-Z is like, you know, in the top 5 for sure. Like I think Jay-Z's, while I know what you mean in the sense that turning rap into content, because he was like one of the first guys to release an album every year and also make a hit every year. He'd always be sure to be on the radio. But I think like there would always be quality in all of his albums. Like I don't think he's ever released a bad album. He has a couple of mediocre albums, but for the most part, like a lot of good.
Was it Magna Carta? One of those later albums was one is bad. It's not Magna Carta.
The Kingdom Come?
Kingdom Come. That one was bad.
That has some good songs on it though.
Like, it's like 3 probably. I got to go back. I haven't heard it in a while.
I didn't listen to that when it came out. Yeah. Like, so I went retroactively.
Yeah. See, at the time that was seen as like, oh, it's over. Like we were ready to write Jay-Z off for a split second. And then he brought it back. But yeah, so Jay-Z's making content. He's making good content, but it's still kind of just content. And so, Kanye never made content. I'll give him that. Until he started really losing it, he never made content. But by the time Drake, and so you have this like back when Drake gives up, after Kendrick emerges and asserts himself as the vanguard for hip hop, it feels like Drake gives up on being a true like GOAT artist in hip hop and just wants to be the most popular guy in his high school. Hip hop artists started treating rap music like content, the same way like a reaction streamer would. You know what I'm saying? Like I need to have new content to put out. I need to make my money. The quality of it is secondary. Whether or not I have something significant to say or something I want to say is secondary. How much this is an extension of an artistic vision I have. All that is secondary at the mainstream level. There's still plenty of great artists today, even right now, making rap music. It's just that the mainstream of hip hop has just lost most of its artistic integrity. And that Drake is the not maybe the start of it, but he is the most prolific at it, starting in the like mid 2010s up to now. And I guess to finally bring Kendrick into it, Kendrick's never been that, for his flaws. And Kendrick does have flaws that I don't, bring up a lot because of the nature of this story. The one thing you can't call Kendrick is not an artist and not a person who is a throwback to that era of hip hop where the artists were also the top tier, highest selling rappers. You know what I'm saying? And what I find interesting, and I like your opinion on this, is whether or not Drake's kind of like demonstrative loss here will have any lasting impact on that as a trend. Because there is, if you, at least my Twitter feed and my TikTok feed are telling me that like people that weren't listening to lyrics are listening to lyrics again, which sounds great. I love that as conceptually, but I just don't have a lot of hope. I didn't expect this to happen in the first place for that reason. But, as a younger person, like, are you seeing people that weren't really paying attention to hip hop as actual art and music, consuming it differently now? Or do you think there's a reality where, I don't know, the next Jid album or the next Denzel Curry album gets a little bit more fanfare and popularity outside of the musty hip hop basements that we're used to?
I definitely saw a lot of people who normally would not care. Like if I were to send them hip hop, they'd be like, yeah, okay, man, like whatever. Now be like, oh, did you hear about Kendrick and Drake? So it is good. Like I'm happy that people care about rap battles, and I'm happy that this one was done very well. Like it was a messy one, but so I have a scorching hot take on this whole thing. This is I think it's at this point, well, we all know that this is what's not the hot take. Everyone, I think, knows that Kendrick won. It's like unanimous for a reason, because it's not just like he won on points. He won by knockout.
Yeah.
Maybe in a double knockout.
Yeah.
At this point with the video
They,
release.
they stopped the fight.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
the other team threw in the towel, basically.
Yeah. But like going into this, I already held Kendrick in a very high regard. Like I think I sent you my list. I'm not sure, but I consider
Kendrick's in my top 5, about to be in my top 3.
Oh, that's already would be, a lot of old head hip hop listeners wouldn't consider Kendrick in the top 10. I think Kendrick's the GOAT of all time. I think he's LeBron James of hip hop. Like he's just the best.
I need one more near classic from him to be comfortable saying that take in front of other people my age. I'm unique as an old head. Most old heads are very surly, kind of bitter guys. And me, I'm more like try to be objective and keep in mind that I'm aging as I judge things. So in terms of like consistency of discography, nobody. Now he only has 6 full projects. If I'm counting Unmastered, Untitled, Section 80, Good Kid, Mad City, The Pimple Butterfly, Damn, Mr. Morale, and I count Untitled, Unmastered. That's 6 albums.
I think he has at least 2 classics.
I would say probably, I think Untitled Unmastered to me is the best thing he's ever done.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
But it's amazing.
Yeah.
Whereas like you can see the impact of like T-Pab and Good Kid, Mad City.
Right.
Like you have a lot of rappers that are considered lyrical, like newer rappers, like I don't know, Logic, for example.
Right.
Logic is kind of like a literal Diet Coke version of Kendrick, Drake, and like those rappers, but he tries to imitate them in certain ways that are very obvious, but he's not nearly like in that level.
Because there's being lyrical and there's being a writer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but you look at those 6 albums, it's not a ton. I can't think of anyone else that I can pick out 6 of their albums that would average out the average of quality, right? Would be on the same level. I can't think of 6 Jay-Z albums that average that out. Nas, who's my current number 1, I don't think he has that either. And so like I would go Nas, Jay-Z, Kendrick right now is my personal.
Nas is who I have as number 2.
Yeah. And my personal number 1 is still Lupe. But like if I was doing like a judge of, if I was saying we have to have the GOAT conversation, it would be probably Nas, Jay, Kendrick right now. But you didn't finish your hot take though. We got off on a tangent. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, this is the hot take. So this whole battle made me respect Drake more as a rapper, not as a person.
Really? I disagree. Go ahead.
I never really respected him as a person. Yeah. So like as a person, what came out is kind of stuff I expected. I didn't expect it to be, because I've seen those clips before. Like I've known Drake was sus. But the thing is, I didn't think Drake was even going to respond. Prior to this battle, I didn't think Drake and Kendrick were even in the same conversation. Like I don't even think Cole is in the same conversation with Kendrick. Kendrick's is on another level. I thought Drake was going to just throw subliminals. He was going to ignore him. He was going to duck him. So when he came back with push-ups, already I was like, this is a good diss track, right? And if he wasn't against Kendrick, it's Kendrick fucking Lamar.
But that's why half the song is not about Kendrick, which is one critique I'll levy. But finish.
True. Yeah, it's true. He was shooting a lot of strays everywhere. Yeah. But
just spraying into the crowd.
Euphoria, already I could have just got that. Like Euphoria and 616 in LA. Especially I saw this breakdown from this guy called What's the Dirt.
I haven't watched that. Everything I hear about that makes me not want to watch it. But since if you think it was good, because I respect your opinion, I'll go back and look at it. But everything I've heard, I'm like, this sounds like because people reach a lot with because Kendrick is such an anomaly as a rapper's rapper and a thoughtful rapper that's also mainstream. Because there's plenty of thoughtful rappers that are just not mainstream. Mm-hmm. People overblow sometimes the thoughtfulness that he puts into and the symbology in his stuff. So I'm like, we'll see, but I'll check that out.
Yeah. Well, he does that with Drake lyrics too. He breaks down Drake lyrics. And the thing about Drake is like, while he's vapid politically, he doesn't really have much content. what he's really good at is like very petty, egoic disses.
Of course he is. Of course Drake would.
Even Pusha T acknowledges he's good at sneak dissing. He's good at
Yeah,
that.
he. I hate the ways you sneak this. Yeah, my favorite line of his, which is frustrates me because he was onto something, but he didn't know what to do with it. Is Kendrick just opened his mouth, somebody handing a Grammy right now, like, because that's such a good angle because Kendrick has this kind of paradoxical status of like people who are fans and maybe not either not super up on hip hop or not super up on like actual Black politics, make him out to be the Fred Hampton, Malcolm X of hip hop, and he's really not.
That angle, Drake had a lot of angles, and some of them were just really poor chess moves and failed. But there was a couple that were smart, which I can see why he went at the fake woke thing, because I don't think fake woke would be fair to describe Kendrick, but what he's often attributed as, like people think he's like you said, a Fred Hampton or even a Tupac, I think wouldn't be a fair comparison. Like I think Tupac was way more politically active than Kendrick was. Like
right.
And
but Drake didn't have the argument I make is that
shouldn't have come from him.
Yeah, it shouldn't have come from him. One, because of who he is, but also Drake is so apart from, you should also watch Volksgeist's video about him.
Yeah.
Drake is so apart from understanding Black anything in America that he doesn't know the next move. That was like a good opening chess move, but he doesn't know what happens after that. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like when he's always rapping like you're trying to get the slave street.
I'd be like, what are you doing, Drake?
He walked into the colonizer line.
Right.
Walked into it.
But so I disagree, though. I came out of this. So I agree in that I didn't expect Drake to respond. And when I sat with it, I realized Drake kind of had no choice but to respond because of how he has cultivated his fandom these last, like, since essentially Pusha T and Meek Mill. Because Drake, people forget, Drake's original fandom was Black women. Black women loved Drake. He was a throwback to the sensitive, light-skinned guy trope that best I ever had, fancy, you know what I'm saying? All that stuff. And Black women defended him as Black male hip-hop heads, called him soft and gay and all this other misogynistic stuff. And then after Meek Mill, and definitely after Pusha T, he starts to develop this online edgelord weirdo fan base. Guys like, what's the guy that's like the ultimate Drake fan in academics?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that becomes his fan base, these weirdos online, because he's smart and cynical enough to understand that this is where the culture is now. So if I can control and be popular here, that's going to carry me wherever else I need. It's not, the power's not with the gatekeepers. And so that fan base was not going to allow him not to respond. You know what I'm saying? Like they demanded a response in their name, or they were going to lose arguments in Reddit. You see what I'm saying?
From his standpoint, I'm glad he responded because it's great for hip hop. Great time for hip hop.
Great time for hip hop. Yeah.
Not a good time for Drake.
No.
Because like he now has people doing TikToks, dancing in the club, which is where he's supposed to dominate, to him getting called a pedophile. Like after Meet the Grams, I was like, okay, Kendrick won on points. When I heard Not Like Us, Mustard on the Beat, that's all I had to hear. I was like, it's over.
Kendrick made a face like Kendrick couldn't believe this is happening. I was on a date. I was with my wife eating fucking tapas or something. And like, I actually got a text from Anthony Fantano. It's like, Kendrick drop. And I put the phone on my head and I heard Mustard on the Beat. And I'm like, is this a banger? Did he do a banger too after doing this dramatic reading of Drake's entire soul? He's then going to release a dance record. Yeah, and that's kind of why, like, I have less respect for Drake because after this, not because because you're right in that he responded.
For Drake, I never heard him rap that well on Family Matters in a very long time. Like he rapped well in the second verse.
Yeah, but the problem is, but that also exposed his limitations is what I would say. I would argue that while you see his raw talent and you see his courage and the fact that he decided to even fully respond. He let somebody gas him up. Then I'm still, one thing I don't have an answer for is, did he ever actually listen to Kendrick Lamar? Does he know who Kendrick Lamar is and was? Like, it seems like he just wasn't paying attention, or just like, no, what is it, Sun Tzu, no 40 Laws of Power, Sun Tzu, anything in how he went into this.
He definitely didn't listen to Mr. Morale very closely, because based on his whole line in the Hard Part 4,
Yeah, 6, he's like, you
Well,
got
you were-
molested.
you're calling me a pedophile because you were molested, and you like misunderstood the record that he was talking about.
Which Kendrick says in Euphoria like 3 weeks earlier. It's fucking amazing. Anyway,
That's when he lost, in my opinion. When he like really, really lost is when he released the Hard Part 4, because that was like a white flag, and it wasn't even.
yes, part 6, hard part 6.
You know, I didn't actually believe, like, I thought Drake was a secret. The way I viewed Drake before was like, he's like Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah,
He dates like very young women. He's just kind of a creep,
yeah.
like that type of dude. Now, when I heard there's defense to the pedophile allegations, I was like, wait, maybe he is.
He might actually be. He's a feeble foul, as they'll say in Reddit.
He said, I'm too rich and famous for that.
Yeah.
It's like, you know,
You don't know what this is, do you?
yeah.
You might be in a space where you rationalize this behavior and think that it doesn't. Yeah, there's some Epstein Island shit. You know, the embassy gonna be raided eventually. It's only a matter of time.
Keep the family away.
Family away. But yeah, and that's and so like the Hard Part 6, and to me, Family Matters is a complete failure as a diss track. It's a great song. When I get into the gym, that shit goes so hard when I need to do some squats and some curls. But as a diss track, Family Matters is a complete failure as a diss track, because at first off, he hyped it up like he was going to end Kendrick's career, which only yes men can have made you think that Family Matters as a diss track was going to end Kendrick's career. Was Family Matters a great song? Had Kendrick not had Meet the Grams and Not Like Us after the fact, would the battle have been debatable from a reasonable level? Sure, people would have debated it. It's not close in my head.
He underestimated Kendrick's ability, but he thought that the woman beating allegations, which, by the way, I think might actually be true.
I think they're plausible. Definitely. I will not put that past Kendrick Lamar. He's been with his wife since high school.
But there was also, he alluded to having a kind of abusive relationship on Mr. Morale.
Yeah. And that's, you know, they met in high school. They've been together for 20 years now. Like, there's no telling the type of reality they've had. The problem is he didn't have any, like, he wasn't ready with proof. He wasn't ready with receipts. He wasn't ready with anything. And that was his only, like, strong. And then what his attacks come down to is Kendrick is short. Kendrick's kids are not his, which there's like no reason to believe that. And it's also not that great of an angle. And then Kendrick is abusive to his wife and fiance, which is a concerning thing, but I hate to say it, in the world of hip hop, does not make a substantial as substantial of a diss as it may in other venues.
I'd agree, but the reason why I think he thought that, Drake did anyway, is because he's trying to win the chicks over. Drake's trying to win the white women over. I mean, I think he's trying to get women on his side, so that's why he went with that whole angle. And he also went with the, you're not really who you say you are, but it just completely failed. Kendrick, he had a mole in his camp, and he responded so fast with that, with like almost an overkill response, because I think Kendrick was afraid of that damaging his reputation, and he responded almost perfectly. Like, totally neutralized it with Meet the Grams, then went back with the knockout.
Yeah. And that's kind of, and that's the thing. To me, is what this exposes Drake's limitation as an artist, as a person who can think beyond what will the girls like, what will my fans like. So the combination of his limitations as an artist, his limitations as a person to think about what he's actually supposed to do. I called the whole section of Family Matters in the middle, where he goes at Rick Ross and everybody else. I say that's like an Anime Beach episode, because there's no reason for that to be there at this point. Like, no reason for him to still be trying to address all these lesser houses and B-tier players when he's in a battle for his literal life.
He's more almost pissed off about Rick Ross no longer being his friend and The Weeknd not fucking with him, because those are people I think he really was close with at a certain point.
Yeah, that makes some sense. I do have a take that I will end with that I think maybe brings it back to the more serious political engagement of like the issue of hip hop. Because one question, because I did a lot of perusing Drake's Reddit, kind of like try to understand what they were thinking and seeing and how they were absorbing all of this. And a lot of them would say like, how dare all these other rappers like turn on Drake when Drake is the reason why many of them have their biggest hits, why some of them are stars to begin with, you know, like Rick Ross is a good example. Half of Rick Ross's biggest moments include Drake. My favorite Rick Ross song of all time, Ashton Martin Music, best strip club song ever. You see, people don't understand what a strip club is till they come to. Strip clubs only exist in red states. Every other place has, you know, dancing nude bars. Red states have strip clubs, and it is an art form there. And you haven't, like, you might think, oh, booty shake, sexy red, whatever. No. I have such a vivid memory of this one stripper doing a slow dance to Ashton Martin Music. I made a joke in the video. At Pinups Indicator in 2000, probably 10. Best song of Rick Ross's career. Anyway, and I'm not even a stripper guy, but like that song, mwah. So like, why did all these rappers turn on Drake so easily? And my hypothesis is that they never liked Drake, ever. They all like all this white boy stuff from Rick Ross. That is how they talked about him when Drake wasn't around. And you see this throughout Drake's career if you have the vision to know what you're looking at. There is a posture that, you ever been to like New Orleans or the Caribbean, maybe? Like Jamaica, like there's a posture that Black people take around outsiders that they need money from. Like there's a tourist posture.
Really nice, yeah.
So like think about how, yeah, overly nice, like, yeah, family, friends, love you. Oh, whatever, like, I'm sure it's in the Caribbean. I know it's in New Orleans. When you go there, they make you feel great, but it's not genuine. They know what you're there for. They need something from you. That is how Drake has always been received by most of the rappers he's around. You can see it in their posture. And what happened there is once Drake, there's all these rumors about like some business deals in the background, and I don't know, UMG or some other like corporation that Drake has stake in, but something he did to and also his constant messing with other people's women, other people's girlfriends and exes. At some point he crossed the line where it was no longer, they no longer felt necessary to play nice with Drake and to coddle him, because there's no way that Drake could have came from Canada and then went to Texas and then New Orleans and then Miami and then Atlanta. That like, that is a literal tourist.
Oh, you know, King's Dead, the song with Future and Kendrick. I listened back to that and I'm
Listen
like,
with that bullshit.
That was about Drake. Whereas back when that came out, no one was saying that.
Yeah. A lot of people have plotted this for years. This is, we'll come back. We'll have to circle back around on that. But like, that's a literal tourist. You're not a gangbanger, you're a tourist. But what the reverse is, all of these rappers are actors just like Drake. Rick Ross is a literal corrections officer. Future's a Nepo baby. You know what I'm saying? Lil Wayne's been rich since he was 10, 11 years old. None of these guys are from the streets that they tend to rap about. The realest one of them is probably Kendrick, followed by Cole. So there's something I think profound about them watching Drake imitating other people and doing it poorly, but white fans can't tell the difference. You know what I'm saying? There's like, I think there was a fury and a bitterness built up in all of them, because it's like we're already pantomiming a persona and culture that we know isn't real, but at least we have some tangential connection to it. Here you come from fucking Canada, pantomiming us, pantomiming something else, and it's a copy of a copy of a copy. We see right through it, and we were telling people for years that you suck at this, playing this character, but like nobody listened and nobody could tell the difference. And I think that put a lot of other rappers in like a really negative headspace. The greatest, and I leave after this, the most telling thing, I saw academics talking to Whack 100, and Whack was like, yo, when Kendrick leaves his house in California, he can just literally get in his car and go wherever he wants, and he's fine. When Drake comes to California, comes to LA, he has to pay $30,000 a day in security. That tells you who's really loved and respected by the culture and who's a tourist. And there's just so much more there, but we've talked for an hour and my video's 3.5 hours long already. So
my point about like
sure.
Drake, I like stopped listening to him for a long time. I thought he was just a pop star who kind of just rides on trends. But like we look at how Drake did now against Kendrick. Looking at that back, who could have gone against Kendrick and done well? Because we saw Cole kind of tried and he pulls back, and he, like his diss record was whack. Like it was awful. I mean, he tried to say
it was awful. It was awful. If my assessment of Lupe is of any note, I think Lupe has a minor level of jealousy towards Kendrick. And I think Lupe would probably kill Kendrick, because Lupe actually does have is more politically inclined, would be able to fully critique Kendrick's gaps in his politics, his historical, not so, like people give, like, I love To Pimp a Butterfly. Sociologically, like from a race consciousness stance, To Pimp a Butterfly has a lot of flaws. Damn is even worse. You know what I'm saying? I get I get it, and I still think it's good overall, but it's so flawed. And I think Lupe, did you hear Lupe when he went at Royce da 5'9"?
no.
Oh, Lupe's diss to Royce da 5'9" over their short-lived podcast that ended in like them having a beef is one of the most like vicious breakdowns of how much you suck I've ever heard on a rap. It's near up there with Ether. The key to a really good diss track is not just like the whole rumors and exposing thing. That shit is whack to me, to be honest with you. That's why Euphoria is so good, because Euphoria doesn't expose anything. It breaks Drake down as a figure within hip hop and tells you why it's bad. Lupe like murdered Royce da 5'9"'s whole career in like existence in this record. He's lucky that it was a small beef that happened on the side of like hip hop, but I know he could do that to Kendrick. I know for a fact.
There's a lot of people who have killed Drake in the past, but we never hear about it. Like aside from the Pusha stuff, but Joe Budden killed Drake. Common.
Well, Common's Drake disses, because he doesn't.
It wasn't that crazy. Like
he doesn't. It was good. I loved it in the moment, but it was also like, Common, you can say so much more. Don't just call him soft. Like, come on, Common.
Yeah,
like
we could. That's the thing. Common is also like one of my favorites. Like,
yeah, that's for me. My personal is like probably Lupe, Common, Kanye. I don't know if in that order. It's hard to listen. It's hard. I am a sensitive Black man from Chicago. You know, like just going from college dropout to Yeezus, that's the closest I think that exists when I talk about like that 6-album stretch, because you got College Dropout, Graduation, Late Registration, Graduation, 808s and Heartbreak, Dark Fantasy, Yeezus. That is an amazing run. Now, everything after Yeezus goes downhill, in my opinion. People like T-Lop, I do not get it. And after T-Lop, it's all trash to me, you know, but that's also like nostalgia and whatever. I got to jump off, man. I wish I could talk more. I'm sorry that we had to spend 15 minutes getting my audio and mic in order, but I'm free all the time. So 3 o'clock, another day was probably work as well.
Yeah, I'll hit you up. Thanks for coming on. That was FD Signifier on the One Dime Radio podcast. Very happy to have him on. He's been a fan of my videos for quite a while, and he makes really great videos on hip hop. I rarely get the opportunity to talk about both of these things: politics, theory, hip hop. People don't know this. Before I even started One Dime and made it into like a political channel, what I wanted to do way back in the day was to make like hip hop video essays that are like analyzing hip hop albums and hip hop artists, ones that I liked, and kind of breaking down what they're saying as well as what their appeal was. You know, basically what Volksgeist does. If you know this YouTuber, Volksgeist, I more or less wanted to do what he does. But then I was like, why the fuck would anyone care? So I chose not to, because I'm going to do something that I'm better at, which is like I'm good at reading books and theory and having things to say on politics. And when I felt confident enough about that, I was like, why not do that instead? But yeah, I was very happy to have this conversation, honestly. Been a fan of FD's videos for a while, and it's nice to see that he's gotten like very politically left socialist. It's really cool. And yeah, hope to see another conversation like this at some point. If anyone knows any political hip hop heads like FD who are very well versed in the history of hip hop and are also, you know, politically active, politically conscious, if you enjoyed this podcast, please give it a 5-star rating on Spotify, Apple, wherever you're listening to it. A like and a comment if you're listening or watching on YouTube. Check out my other stuff. Check out my podcasts. If you're new to One Dime Radio, I have a lot of stuff on economics, philosophy, politics, history, all kind of stuff. And if you don't know my videos, the One Dime channel, definitely check out the videos. I have a video on Tupac Shakur, the politics of Tupac Shakur, and the video that FD mentioned called The Culture Industry that are highly related to this. So yeah, thanks for listening, and take care.